Greetings from LA, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with our journeys, our discoveries, our discussions, and our explorations with respect to the recent releases made by the Criterion Collection during this year of 2023. And specifically, I'd like to continue or conclude our discussions with respect to this wonderful set, Pasolini 101, which is the multi-disc Blu-ray set that was released earlier this year from the Criterion Collection. So let us now address other comments regarding the set overall. I mean, we've spoken about each of the films and the discs, each of the Blu-rays. So now let's speak about other comments and maybe some other aspects of the book, and then just to conclude about our thoughts about the films that are included in this great set, Pasolini 101. So I should point out that this set is not purporting to include all of the films that were directed by Pier Paolo Pasolini. But if you are looking for a good chunk of them, a large number of them, especially starting from his first feature film director effort, Akatone, this is a great place to go. It's a really great place to go. And we have tried to discuss each of the films in turn over the course of these discussions. But again, if you're looking for a journey of Pasolini directed films, this is a really wonderful place to begin. And if you want to continue through the films beyond this set, there are other great places to turn to with respect to Criterion releases. There's a separate release, for example, with regard to Pasolini directed films released in the early 70s, known collectively as the Trilogy of Life. And then there's also a very famous or infamous work that Pasolini directed, which was his final work, which is called Salo, Salo, 120 Days of Sodom, which is also its own separate Criterion release. So there are other places to turn, even in the realm of Criterion, if you're still seeking a journey of the Pasolini filmography beyond this. So just to let you know, it's not a complete filmography collection, but I think it's really robust and a really well represented selection of films. And I think one way to look at it would be maybe Pasolini 101 in terms of the number of years from his sort of celebrating the sort of number of years of his birth, but also the Pasolini's works in the 60s. So as we mentioned before, these films represent, I think, the wide spectrum of the ebbs and flows of the social, political currency and concerns of the 1960s through the viewfinder of Pasolini's perspective, as well as his, say, trajectory as an artist and writer and filmmaker and director. So, and you have it's an interesting journey if you think about where he was when we have Akatone, and then where he is when we have a film like Medea. So that, and there are so many differences, but there are also so many similarities as well. So it's a fabulous journey to make. So while this is not all of the films, this is such a great representation of Pasolini's body of output that I think it's so worth checking out again if you are interested in the world of Pasolini. And there have been many non-Criterion releases of Pasolini's films, collector sets of Pasolini's films as well, but if you are in North America, or if you're a Criterion fan or enthusiast and you like what Criterion does, here's another great example of the box set representing a body of work from a filmmaker. I mean, we have seen box sets like this, the Fellini set, which is the Essential Fellini set, or the Ingmar Bergman collection, or the Agnes Varda sets, etc. So speaking of which, let me point out that the size, the dimension of this is very interesting. It has this outer shell and inner shell component, and it has a nice, I would say, pretty nice quality outer shell casing. And the inner shell is this hard-bound booklet type with the housing mechanism for the discs, and I'll speak about that momentarily. For each disc, again, 9 discs overall, and a little bit of a housing mechanism for the booklet, and I'll speak about that momentarily. The booklet is out at the moment because I have it on the table here, but the release also came on the outer wrapping. This piece of paper, and this piece of paper was again on the outer wrapping. So when you remove the outer plastic wrapping, this is also removed. But it's nice to keep this. I like to keep this as a little bit of a description of the release with information about the films and also this type of write-up, which you commonly see in the back covers of Criterion releases, but this being a box set of this sort, we don't have that imprinted onto the cover itself. It would have been nice to have seen that maybe written on the back of maybe the inner part, but I suppose that would have disturbed the flow of the overall aesthetic design of this. So this is a separate piece of paper. I like to maybe keep it together like this and then put it back into the, or maybe put it in one of the pages and then keep it as part of the set itself. So it's, I think, fairly easy to do so, although if you take it in and out like I have done in terms of opening and closing the set on the amount of times I've done, it might wrinkle the paper a little bit. So if you are concerned about that, just please keep that in mind. For me, it's not so bad. I don't mind the wrinkling of the paper to this extent, but because it has a utility for me in terms of a list of what is featured as well as the list of the films. So but just keep that in mind, just in case you are you want to maintain a sense of, say, a mint condition or near mint condition of the the paper that's on the plastic wrapping. But also in terms of the dimension size, I should point out that let's take this as a comparison. So here is the Pasolini films. I'm sorry, my comparison method is not so good here, but here is what the Agnes Varda set looked like from a couple years ago. So you can see there is a slight difference in dimension quality, but if we look at the thickness or from the side, we can see that as well. So that's very interesting. This Agnes Varda set had its own, say, booklet as well as the compartment for the films itself. So we have a slightly different design in a manner speaking in terms of how the Pasolini set operates. We have one inner unit which houses the discs and also an inner compartment shell within this inner unit, which is forming the case for the booklet. So the booklet itself is even smaller dimensions than the inner unit in a manner of speaking, which is a little bit different in design aesthetic choice than, say, the book which was also which was outside of the inner unit, and the book and the discs were 2 inner units that were then inserted into the outer. Just let me show, just for the sake of comparison, that's the Bergman set right there. So, and then the side. So it has that. The Bergman set has much larger dimensions, physically speaking, than the Pasolini set, but that's okay. I mean, that's an interesting thing about box sets in Criterion. They're not all designed. The collector sets are not all always designed in, say, the same dimensions or sizes. So I know maybe for some physical media collectors that might, there's a real beauty in terms of a type of uniform dimension size. But that's not usually the case for Criterion box sets, but that's okay. I'm totally okay with that. That type of design aesthetic, and I really like this this compact nature. It feels robust and it also is compact at the same time. So I really appreciate that, actually. I think it's a really cool design choice here. And also the art, I should point out too, that we have the outer shell artwork and the inner shell artwork, and it has this type of almost like stained glass window way that's also portmanteau style. It's showcasing various images from the films that are shown here, and those images are also showcased as we get to the discs and each of the sleeved pages for the films themselves. So this is, I think, an interesting motif and design choice. I really like this choice. So in terms of the cover art designs, both the outer shell and the inner shell, that's great. And notice here the top we have, again, it's hard to see, I apologize, but it looks, you can see Pasolini Pasolini, Pier Paolo Pasolini, in this sort of lettering, which is an interesting design choice aesthetic, and the like. I don't see anything inside, although if there is, I just can't see it, but I don't see any little goodies or something on the inside. There's nothing wrong with this shade of color, of course, but just note that little design choice at the very top there. That's interesting. Uh, so that's how it works in terms of the outer casing and the inner casing and the cover art design. And that design choice aesthetic is also carried through when we see the booklet. And we'll talk a little bit more about the booklet momentarily. But before we do, let me say that art directors credited to art director Sarah Habibi, Eric Skillman, designer Eric Skillman, art production coordinator William Braze, and art assistant Julie Sussman. So I'm very pleased with the way this. I have to say one thing on a technical level. I apologize. I think the microphone that I was using just a moment ago is faulty, and so I'm now recording off of a different microphone. So if you notice a jump or dip in quality in audio sound, I apologize. I'm doing the best I can here, but apologies for the technical difficulties here. But in any event, let me just continue on here, which is the next thing I wanted to point out is the disk storage compartment mechanism here, which I must say is a point that I need to raise as a point of criticism here. The 9 disks are stored in this fashion, which is the sleeves, and they go into the sleeves like so. And you can see, for instance, that when I open it, for instance, for Akatone, I have to reach in and I have to touch the underside of the disk and pull it out, and then put the disc in the player and then put it back in when I'm done. I'm not a fan of that mechanism, and so actually when this video is finished, I'm actually going to take the discs out and then put them in separate plastic cases because I'm not so comfortable with how this works out. I understand the robustness and resilience of Blu-ray discs and that they are not prone to scratches easily, and that in theory this storage mechanism should not cause any scratch concerns because they are very scratch resistant. So I understand that, but and I understand too that there's a special type of lamination in the inner part of these sleeves that should further prevent scratches from occurring. And I should point out that all the discs, when I played them back, including the supplements, had no jumps or skips, so I was totally okay with that. So no problems there, but they feel very tight, and maybe even tighter than, say, other Criterion envelope sleeve storage compartments. Here in particular, there's a lot of pressure. I'm not sure what it is. So you're trying to wedge them in there, which, again, no matter how much I'm reminded of the scratch resistance of Blu-rays, it doesn't sit right with me. So I'm going to remove them after this video is over. And then I should also point out too that when I first opened this package and took it out of its plastic wrapping for the first time because it wasn't open before, I noticed that some of the discs actually were sticking out here. So you could see some of the top ends of the discs sticking out of here. They really should be fit in so you don't see anything stick out. But even now you can actually see a little bit of some of the discs sticking out. And in fact, when I first opened it, there was even more of the undersides of the discs exposed, maybe about like that. And so I tried to check if there are any smudge marks or scratches there. I didn't notice any, except there for the Medea disc. I think there was some debris or dust that had accumulated over certain spots that maybe were attaching themselves because of the fact that that part of the disc was exposed because it was sticking out. So I had to remove those very gently with a special cloth. But and incidentally, with the Medea playback, I didn't notice any playback issues. So that was a good thing, I suppose. But just keep that in mind. So I'm very, that's the comment that I wanted to make regarding the storage discs and the system there. So the 9 discs, the Blu-ray discs. So it's not what I would have preferred. So maybe I can understand, maybe due to certain choices involving the packaging, that this was the best way to store 9 Blu-ray discs. It's a lot of discs, so I totally get that. But again, just keep that in mind in case that might be of a concern to you and the like. So that's the way that the storage mechanism works. But let me now turn also to the booklet. because also what's stored in the booklet. While I have some concerns about how the discs are stored, um, I really like how the booklet is stored. It's stored as part of this inner sleeve at the back end of this hardbound case here. And we've spoken a little bit already about the booklet before, but let me say again how the booklet is wonderful. It has all the separate critical analytical write-ups by James Quandt on each of the films, plus this layout, which is a carryover of the cover art design, plus some excerpts from writings by Pasolini, plus some moments here and there's some photographs and also excerpts from storyboards from some of the films, etc. And then also there are the writings. There's the Why Cinema writing by Pier Paolo Pasolini, which is excellent. And then the Elegiac Heart, Pier Paolo Pasolini, filmmaker by James Quandt, which is serving as the type of comprehensive overarching essay, which I think is absolutely top-notch. My strong recommendation is that you read the comprehensive essay by James Quandt after you've seen all the films. I think that's the best way to do it. But after you've seen all the films, please check that out. The James Quandt writings, including that comprehensive essay, including the other writings, those are one of the great strengths of this. So please check that out if you can. It's really wonderful, really wonderful. And I think that caps off what I wanted to say about the Pasolini 101 set. Brilliant set. I mean, it's of course this is 101, the 101st anniversary of the birth of Pasolini, but also 101 in the sense of cinema, film school in a box by Criterion. And so this is like a film school class, class on Pasolini 101. So it's also focusing on the works of the 60s by Pasolini. So that's also something to keep in mind. You're not getting all of his films. You're getting most of his films. You're getting his films from the 60s, but you're not getting his films from, say, released in the 70s, such as the Trilogy of Life films and Solo. So if you are interested in pursuing a further Pasolini journey, you can find those films available again in separate releases by Criterion. So I would say that, for instance, if you are interested in watching some of Pasolini's 60s work and you don't know where to go, I would suggest this box set is a great way to go. I enjoyed it thoroughly. If you haven't seen it and you're still on the fence whether to get this set or not, because it is not cheap. It's quite expensive compared to other Criterion releases. So, but if you are on the fence, you can always wait for a sale, or if you try to accumulate points or gift cards or whatever the case may be, or you can try a film from the 60s. I would recommend watching a film in the 60s first, individually, like Teorema or Mama Roma or Akatone if you can. And if you like that film, or if you're intrigued to watch more, then I think this set is for you. Nothing against the 70s work. I'm an admirer of the 70s work by Pasolini. But I would say that maybe for the most part, watching a 70s film Pasolini, while there are similarities, it can be said that there are also some distinctions that can be made with his works in the 70s and his works in the 60s. So even if you have seen only Pasolini's 70s works, there is still the chance, and maybe you, for whatever reason, maybe are not interested in the works of Pasolini because of what you've seen from the 70s. That's fine. That's totally, I think, a reasonable approach to have. Just my point here is that it might be worth considering watching some of his 60s work as well, just to see, because as I say, while there are some similarities that can be made, there are also some differences, which I've tried to suggest in one form or another throughout the course of these discussions. So again, that's my suggestion if you're interested. But if you know that you are into the Pasolini films and you haven't gotten this set yet, this is a great place to go. I have made some critical points along the way, and there might be some issues regarding supplements. Maybe it might be a good idea to watch the films first and then watch all the supplements, or maybe it might have been interesting to see more commentary tracks, more supplements included. That wasn't the case for every single release, as I've discussed throughout the course of these videos, but with those, and also I've discussed now about how the discs are stored, etc. But with those, say, points of criticism notwithstanding, I am very enthusiastic about my praise for this release. It allowed me the opportunity to revisit the world of Pasolini in the 60s, from Acatone to Medea. and everything in between. And I found it such an engaging, worthwhile journey indeed. So bravo to Criterion for releasing this in this form. It's a very fantastic, compact looking box set release. And it leaves me eagerly awaiting what's next. So in any event, that's my 2 cents when it comes to the Criterion Collection release of Pasolini 101. And once again, I apologize for the sudden dip in sound quality here. I hope you can forgive me, but my microphone died out on me in the last minute. So while the microphone couldn't make it to the end of the Pasolini 101 journey, I hope that you were able to, my dear friends. I apologize for the dip in sound quality, but I hope you can understand. But I wanted to make it to the very, very end, and I think this is it. So I want to say thank you so much, my dear, dear friends, for joining me along this journey, along this way. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. And maybe we can see each other again at the next video. But until then, my dear friends, please continue, to be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great movies, including the films of Pasolini in this Pasolini 101 set and beyond. So until the next video, my dear, dear friends, stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.